Welcome to the Riverbend Awareness Project.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast episode are solely those of the individuals participating and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Riverbend Media Group or the Riverbend Awareness Project, its affiliates, or its employees. It is important to note that the discussion presented is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified healthcare professionals for any medical concerns or decisions. The Riverbend Awareness Project is a product of Riverbend Media Group.
Welcome back to the Riverbend Awareness Project. Today we have Heidi Blumel with us. She is a local business owner and she's come in to share her story about multiple sclerosis with us. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and kind of how this journey started for you?
Okay, yeah. So, hello, I am Heidi Blumel, and I have had multiple sclerosis for 10 years. And it started off right after I gave birth to my son. He was premature and was born in January of 2015. And after that, my body just started to feel off, feel different. And it wasn't like the usual giving birth, letting your body recover feeling. It was just something internal. And I talked to my husband about it. And he's like, okay, you're probably just, you had a lot, and trying to talk me down. Um, and then after a week, I started having these symptoms like extreme fatigue, numbness, tingling. I was getting like icy hot feelings down my back. I was getting pain in my feet, um, migraines daily. And at that point, I knew something was really going on. So I went to my doctor and he ran all my labs. And as I was waiting for the results, this was a few days later, I had like a flare hit me and my whole right side went numb and heavy. My speech was slurring and cognitively it's like I couldn't focus. And the pain and the numbness was getting more intense and more frequent. So I called my doctor and he said, "Well, your labs look good. This is definitely something neurological." So he got me in for an MRI the very next business day. And after I went in and did the MRI, he called me and said, you know, um, MRI results are like a textbook case for multiple sclerosis. And I just thought my world ended. But moving forward, he sent me to a neurologist and I had to do a spinal tap to confirm the MS. So I did all that and it just, that first year was just a blur, trying to figure out the best options, the best treatment, trying to take care of a business and a family, you know, it was a really, really hard first year.
Yeah, well, and when you said that you had a flare up right before you found out like what was actually going on,
hmm
that had to be so scary because like all the symptoms before didn't sound that fun either, but then it just got intense, I feel like. And so
Yeah.
I don't
Y-
know how. Yeah, sorry.
no, it definitely was. I remember that night I was sitting in the rocking chair holding my son and my grandmother was over at my house and she had to take my son from me and hold him cuz it's like MS hits you like all or nothing, right? I mean, it's just out of the blue and a like it's such a tricky monster, you know? And I just was sitting there and my grandma thought I was having a stroke. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't have a stroke. I'm 27." Like this is not happening. And so I was really, really nervous, really nervous. I just in the back of my head, I kept thinking, maybe it's just a pinched nerve. Maybe I ate something. Maybe it's an allergic reaction. Just trying to talk myself down from getting all worked up about it.
Well, that's scary because those are symptoms that could lead to a lot of different things. So that's scary not knowing
Yeah,
knowing something's wrong but not knowing what it is.
exactly. And MS can be misdiagnosed as a lot of things, like lupus or Lyme's disease, or um, you could even have some type of arthritis that could affect you in similar ways. But it just like MS never entered my mind. And to have that it was just destroying.
So after the diagnosis,
Mhm,
what kind of happened after that? After you found out, okay, this is the monster, like you said, that we're dealing with.
mhm.
What happened?
It actually took me quite a while to get back to normal, right? Um, the last 6 years, well, okay, let me backtrack. The first year was like a whirlwind because I had to find a neurologist, I had to find treatment, and treatment for MS isn't like you go into the doctor and they're going to put you on like the most aggressive and the best medication possible. It's like you have to jump through hoops to get a medication that actually works. So you have to fail a couple to get bumped up the ladder, so to say. And it took me failing 2 treatments within the first year and going to like 3 different neurologists to find Dr. Foley at Rocky Mountain MS Center in Salt Lake City to really get a handle on things. Because since my diagnosis to finding Dr. Foley, I was just getting worse and worse, and nothing was working. And so they finally put me on an immunosuppressant infusion called Tysabri. And I would go down to Salt Lake every 4 to 5 weeks and have treatment for 2 hours, turn around, and come back home.
That sounds exhausting.
Ye- yeah.
And
Yep.
you had a very well, you had well, he would have been one, not at the time anymore, but like through that, your baby, like
Oh, yeah.
little one, so that would be
Mhm.
hard too.
So we had to, like, pack up the kids and haul them down there and haul them back, and, I mean, that looking back, that's been their life, they haven't known anything different, and they've been to all of my doctor's appointments, but, um, as soon as we got on Tysabri, it took about a year to get everything leveled out and to finally feel like I was not becoming like my old self because I had all these daily symptoms that I had to address, but I was feeling better, I guess you could say. And by year 3, when I was about 30, I really felt good, like the best I had felt in 3 or 4 years. And I was able to go back to the gym and participate in my career more, be more present with my children. And then after that, um, we decided that we wanted to try a more aggressive treatment because B cell depletion therapy, so like chemotherapies, started coming into play for MS. They were showing a lot of progress, and you didn't have to take them as often. Some of them you took once a month, and then the stronger ones you would take every 6 months or once a year. So I liked that flexibility because it could mean that I could get back to a normal routine and not be like sick for 2 weeks, treatment, and then okay for 2 weeks, and then down again, kind of like a bell shaped curve.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got off of Tysabri and went on this B cell depletion drug called Kesimpta. and it's a monthly shot. But the first month, you have to take one shot every single week. They're called your loading doses. The good thing about that was that this shot I could administer or my husband could administer at home.
I was about to ask. I was like, did you have to still go to the Salt Lake or? Yeah.
Nope. So this made it more convenient, especially with my little kids. Um, but I only I was able to only take like 7 shots. So about 3 months of treatment because it did not work for me. I got so sick, I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't take a shower. We were washing my hair in the kitchen sink because I was so weak, and the treatment did not help my MS at all. Like, it actually, put me into a relapse, and I got new lesions in my back, and it started shutting down my respiratory system. So, the doctor, immediately took me off that because there was one day where I just I could not physically do it anymore. And I went to my husband's work, and I just fell on his couch and I said, "You have to take me to Salt Lake. Like, I am literally dying. Like, I do not feel good." And so after we did that, and the doctor did my MRIs and everything and saw the damage that was happening, he took me off um, to restart on Tysabri. But every time you switch on and off from medications, you have to do what's called a washout period. And that's not being on anything and taking the old drug out of your system for 3 to 4 months. And at that time, if you have active MS, you have to go on steroids, infusions to keep the relapse at bay. So I did the washout and I was put back on Tysabri. And I stayed on Tysabri for about 2.5 years. And then last January of 24, I had a really bad relapse. And this started to affect everything from the waist down. I had complete numbness. I had muscle tremors. When I would be at the gym, I developed drop foot on my left. So like as I was running or walking or anything like that, my foot would actually like kind of I wasn't able to pick it back up.
Okay.
Um I have what is called the MS hug, and it's where all your muscles in your diaphragm, in your back, and in between your ribs spasm, and it feels like you have like a corset on or something, and people are like just pulling at it. Like it just is so uncomfortable and hard to breathe. Um, I lost my balance. I was a fall risk now, and if we ever were doing anything where people were walking a long distance or out and about, like I was being pushed in a wheelchair. Um, and if not, I was told multiple times that I should go get a cane because I started developing a limp because my legs were so heavy and numb. Um, so at that point, I talked to my neurologist and I basically hit a wall, you know. I couldn't do Tysabri anymore because I wasn't metabolizing it well, which it can happen, you know. You get drug antibodies and you're not able to, I guess, sustain that treatment for a long period of time. And also my MS was changing. It was going from relapsing, remitting to secondary progressive. And that is also normal. And it can happen after like 10, 12 years of being diagnosed. It's just the constant and slow decline that MS puts on your body. So we talked about it, and my neurologist said that a stem cell transplant, which had been around for some time. It's been around for about 25 years, but it was more aggressive, and now they have tweaked it somewhat. And he felt comfortable telling me that I needed to look into it. So from January to May, I was doing all the research. My neurologist was helping me find um, an institution that would perform it. And in May, I had a consult with a Dr. Burt at Scripps La Jolla. And he said that I was a great candidate, that my MRIs looked like they were enhancing enough that this was something that could help me. Um, and so then from June to September, I washed out of Tysabri. And during that time, I went into the cancer center here and was receiving a steroid infusion once a month to keep the relapse calm down. And then in October, this October, I went to California for 5 weeks and had a autologous hematopoietic stem cell transplant for my
Impressive
MS.
that you can remember that and you remember how to pronounce it.
Well, I spent a lot of time in the hospital,
Oh, yes.
but it has changed my life. I mean, we left October 10th, and I did my first round of chemo on October 14th. And then um, a week later, I had my own stem cells taken, and then they froze them and spun them to get the bad ones out. And then I went back in November and I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. And they gave me 2 rounds of chemo, 6 rounds of a drug called ATG. And then I got my stem cells back on November 19th of 2024. And it has been life changing. I mean, my balance has come back. I was taken off all the prescription medication that I had been on for the last 10 years, and I'm down to one and on the lowest dose. And I was taking at least 6 pills a day at some pretty good, milligrams. Um I feel good. My energy is back and my strength is coming back. I just am so grateful for that treatment.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling a lot better. That's really good.
Thank you.
And that sounds like such a discouraging process, just going through so many different medications and some of them
Mhm.
working and not working. And then chemotherapy, I know that's also really hard on the body. So that just sounds really, really difficult. So, do you have any advice for people who might be struggling with
Mhm.
MS for how you can keep hope even when it just seems so discouraging?
Mm. You know, it took me some time to find hope myself, but the biggest thing is just take one day at a time and rely on God, your family, your friends, your support, because even the darkest moments, I had to remind myself, like, it's not going to kill me. Like, I'm not dying. I just have to live a different way to enjoy my life. And I had to be really, really proactive on how I treated my body, what I did. I had to set up new limitations for myself. And if you're not doing the research, if you're not talking to your doctor honestly and saying, okay, what does it look like? When do you think it's going to change? What is the best medication for me, then you need to start, because the more involved you are and the better it's going to be. But it just, having hope, I think, gave me strength to continue on every single day.
There was something I was thinking about when you're talking about your journey and your family there with you. Your grandma was there, your husband was there, your kids were there. We had a guest come in a previous episode, different health concern, but still a major like health journey that they had, and he talked about having those moments with your family, and like even in the like darkest moments, you still get to be so close and support one another.
Hmm.
So how, I guess, how did the support of family and friends help you, and how can family and friends support people going through MS?
So, going back to my family, it really strengthened us because it stripped all the superficial things of life away, and we could focus on what was most important, especially when I was really, really sick. You know, I had really good conversations with old friends and family members, and learned to appreciate things deeper. Um, I would tell people to be hopeful. You know, if you're watching a loved one or a friend or somebody you care about go through MS or an autoimmune disease that could be debilitating in some way, um, be there to listen. And when you talk, talk honestly. I think sometimes we like to sugarcoat things, especially I have found myself sugarcoating, how I feel to save somebody. But if these individuals are really close to you, then showing that you trust their opinion, no matter how grim it might look at the moment, can make a world of difference. Understanding that there are going to be limitations and changes to their life. And so, not to put too much pressure on them or yourself to make like something happen. Like if you have dinner reservations and they are just not feeling it, it's not the end all be all. And so just being flexible as well. But knowledge is a great tool to have, especially when you're dealing with an autoimmune disease or any type of disability. So anything that you can learn and help implement will just show that you're a support for the long run.
If you're comfortable sharing, do you have any moments that stand out to you that were really particularly meaningful? I mean, it's 10 years is a long time, so I imagine there's a lot. But
It, yeah, looking back, it's just, I've had so many experiences where friends have stepped in and even strangers have stepped in, and family members, to watch my kids or to bring me over flowers or bring me meals. I've had people just reach out and have become some of my best friends because we have MS or they might be struggling with something and we help each other. Um my husband and I have really gotten down to like the nitty-gritty bare bones of our conversations, and have strengthened our relationship. And he has seen me at my best, and he has definitely seen me at my worst. And I just think back of how many tender mercies um, I've received from God. I'm a religious person, and I do know that his hand has been in my life because there are things that have happened that no amount of money, no title, no education, nothing could help me or could make that situation better. And I I I just couldn't do it alone, you know? And for me, God has been pivotal in this journey. And I try to see his hand in everything because with how many lesions I have in my brain and in my spine and in my neck, I have so many deficiencies and limitations, especially in a flare up, that I shouldn't even be functioning as well as I was. So I just I have seen so many miracles throughout the last 10 years.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story and your hope. That's incredible. Um, what has led to your sharing your story? Because I know some people are more, personal, and others want to share it. So not that there's like right or wrong way, but
Mhm.
right. But what motivates you to share your story?
To help, I mean, I'm motivated because I know how hard it was for me to go through the last 10 years and the highs and the really, really lows, that if I could help anybody, I mean, it doesn't matter what disease you have. If you have experienced a life altering change, I want you to know that I understand. Like, I went to bed one night perfectly fine and I woke up messed up and I can't go back, but the last 10 years will be worth it if I could just help somebody see that you're not going to die. Like, your life might seem like it's over, but you just have to, like, not back down. You have to fight for the life that you want and you have to make those changes. And it's possible. I mean, yes, there's going to be really, really hard days where you just need to stop, like you just can't take it. But every day you're going to have to face what you're dealing with. And I could not imagine going through every single day in a dark cloud. Like, there's beautiful things about life, even with your limitations. You can still make it work. You can still do what you want to do and achieve what you want to achieve. You just have to put in the hard work. And it is so hard. Like, it is so, so hard. And it will test you and it will push you. But if you already have that expectation that you're on this roller coaster and it's going to be a crazy ride, then I feel like you can be more successful instead of being like, it's horrible and it sucks, or clear on the other spectrum where you're like, it's just rainbows and sunshine, but inside I'm cracking. So, no, just be honest with yourself, say what it is, and you know what? Pull up your pants and let's do this.
Yeah, you gotta find that balance of hope, realism, and hope. I guess I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
What do you think is the most important thing for people to know about MS?
Oh, there there's a lot. Um that a lot of people think that it only affects women. It doesn't. I mean, it affects more women than it does men. You can be diagnosed between like 10 and 60, you know? A lot of people think that it's a fatal disease, that once you have it, you're just withering away to a wheelchair or to death. And that's not the case. Like nowadays, there are so many treatments and so many options that you can run a marathon. Once you get stable and you get things under control, then it will give you a part of your life back. Like, this is not a disease that cannot be overcome. Like, there is hope. So, if you are newly diagnosed or if you are suffering, there are options now for us. Now, I know like 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the medication wasn't there. And so that's, I think, where the stigma comes from, that MS is just a life sentence. Well, in one way, it is a life sentence because there's not like a cure, but you can still have a life with MS. Other things is you can't have kids after you're diagnosed with MS, and that's not true either. There is a higher chance of a relapse when, like, after you give birth, like in my case, what happened. I had that relapse right after my son was born. But there are some studies out there that show that the pregnancy hormone actually helps put MS into remission. So I know people who, even after their diagnosis, had children. For me, that wasn't in my cards. We had other complications. And so that's why I have my two beautiful children. But you can have kids. Also, people think that MS is a genetic disease. And I do have an aunt who has MS, and she was diagnosed when I was in high school. But looking more into MS, it's not genetic, it's more environmental. And they've also linked it to the Epstein-Barr virus. And the Epstein-Barr virus is what creates mono. So, and if you think about it, and this is my thinking, is if it's more environmental, I could see how it would be confused to be genetic, because families, you either live together or you live in a close proximity, and it can affect, some people and not others. So those are a few misconceptions. Another one would be that you're going to be in a wheelchair. Now, that percentage of individuals who are in a wheelchair is getting lower and lower all the time because there's amazing advancements for MS.
It's exciting that there's, like you said, there is hope and there's growth in progress, and there's treatment, and there's so many options now to move forward and live an amazing life.
There is. I mean, there is one treatment or drug that's going into trial right now, and it's for a remyelinization. So that drug would actually go to the dead lesions that you have and would heal them. So it would remyelinize that nerve that's been destroyed by MS. So that would be a complete game changer. I mean, that's like fixing your broken arm. And then also, stem cell transplant is making huge ground in MS and other autoimmune diseases too, like scleroderma and Crohn's disease. So it's really, really exciting. So hopefully one day we can say that MS is curable.
That's amazing. That's really exciting.
Yes, it is.
Make sure I didn't miss anything.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Just
Um,
sorry, that's very general, but
no. I mean, I'm just very grateful that you guys invited me on this podcast. MS is something that was very scary for a while, and I didn't know how to maneuver through it. And when I started just digging in and getting educated and finding resources and finding people to connect with and taking care of myself and setting limits. And I mean, it has been the hardest 10 years of my life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I have learned so much and I have grown leaps and bounds that I don't think if I was cured or healed 9 years ago, I would not be the same person. So even though it's been hectic, I am really grateful for it. But I just want other people to know that there's treatments coming out. If you're newly diagnosed, I would highly, highly suggest looking into stem cell transplant. Um, I want people to know that if they would like to contact me, I am so open to talking and sharing. And I just want to help people because this disease um is is brutal.
There was something that we didn't like completely touch on exactly. Like we talked about it more general.
Mhm.
But you said it's brutal, but it like affects it can affect all aspects of your life, like work, hobbies, daily routine.
Mhm.
So um how can you navigate that? And you talked about like setting limits and but also like creating the life you want. So how do we how do you do that?
Well,
Sorry,
so
it's a roundabout way of
no,
getting there,
I
but
I understand. I think once you start to notice what triggers your disease, it's easier to find what will help it. So we had discussed earlier um, that not everybody with MS has the same symptoms. And that's because MS attacks nerves in the brain. And everybody can have different lesions on different parts of the brain that affect different motor skills or cognitive skills or muscles or anything. So you can have a symptom from being fatigued to going blind to not being able to swallow. You can have walking issues, you can have balance issues, you can have anything your body does can go opposite and not work properly. But so for me, I had hot and cold, like heat intolerance and cold intolerance. And so if my body got too warm, then I couldn't cool it down. And so, like in the summertime, I had to be really careful. If it was too hot, I couldn't go anywhere. And if it was too cold, I couldn't warm up. So, going back, you will find ways to adapt. Other things is like in the beginning, I was so exhausted. Like, I could take 2 naps and still wake up exhausted. So, making sure that your day is productive, but not overproductive, because you don't want to, you get burned out really, really easy. Um, I found that changing up my diet a little bit helped. So I don't eat pork, I limit dairy, and have more like no caffeine, not a lot of processed foods, and that can help. Exercising is a huge key, even if it's just something little, like if you have like little hand weights, you can do a routine with, or walking. Um, and it's, yeah, it takes time though. And that sometimes it can be frustrating because nothing seems to be working, but in the long run, it will get better.
That's so interesting. I had no idea there was such a variety of symptoms. So that does make it
Hmm.
difficult to figure things out. And
Yeah, it does. And I think also not being too serious or too hard on yourself because in the later years I started having cognitive issues. So like my memory was leaving me, or I would forget people's names. I would also have a problem talking, like my speech sometimes would slur, or I would be saying one thing and a word that completely doesn't even fit in the sentence or the topic I'm talking about would come out. So it's like my brain was moving faster than my mouth, and I got tripped up on words or reading. So I would always just be honest with people, like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm so sorry if I forgot your name. I have a hard time remembering names. Or, oh my gosh, I totally was supposed to get that into you. I just forgot, because I'd remember one thing and like 10 minutes later, I'd be like, why is my phone in the fridge? Because I would just, my brain was everywhere all the time. And that's so hard when you have little kids and you're running a business and you're taking care of family and trying to take care of yourself. It just was so frustrating.
I feel like all of that together normally it's hard to remember sometimes, but when your brain isn't talking to your nerves as it's supposed to, that's makes it harder. That's crazy.
Yeah. So just be nice to yourself and just don't get so upset when things happen. Just be like, okay, just I lived off sticky notes for a long, long time.
Sounds like a lot. I don't know. It seems like everything's linked, right?
Mhm.
So when you're having these problems, these physical problems, then it can also, it just like you were talking about, it can lead to like mentally, it's difficult sometimes to keep up that hope or keep not just be so hard on yourself. So do you have any advice or tips for how you can kind of change your attitude around and change even when you're going through these really hard challenges, how you can keep a positive attitude?
So some of that is by choice, right? Like we either choose to handle things in a positive way or we choose not to, or we choose to take care of something or we choose not to. With MS, it's more tricky because sometimes those lesions are actually in like your frontal lobe area that controls like emotion, or it could be in the middle area on the left side of the hemisphere, which controls like short term memory. And so that's hard when your body is actually playing against you, and symptoms with like anxiety, depression, memory start coming up, and you've never had that happen before, you know? So sometimes like we just can't help it. It's part of the disease. But you can get help for those symptoms. And every time I would be going through a hard moment, I just always said, okay, one day at a time, one day at a time. We're going to take care of this today and then whatever comes tomorrow, but I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. And also, to repeat again, faith has really helped me. It's given me hope. It's given me love, compassion, empathy, and strength when I have nothing else. But if you aren't into faith, whatever helps motivate you or brightens your day normally, I mean, if you like to go outside and garden, do that. And then when winter comes, instead of getting in a depressive state, think about next year's gardening, and what plans you want to do there. Or if you're into meditation, right? Always meditate every day, even if you don't feel like it. That is another thing that I have learned is when you don't feel like it or you don't think you can physically do it, then you just have to do it, because it starts breaking down those barriers and the walls that you have built up, and you're showing yourself that you can do it. You will get through this. You will get past this. Or if you are into journaling, be honest. I mean, if you have a crappy day, be like, this day sucks. This is the worst ever. And then list it all out. Just put it all out there because it's therapeutic and you're not carrying it with you. Or if you have close friends and family members, you know, just call them up. I also find that if I'm helping or involved in other people's lives, that makes me not think about what's going on in mine.
Seeing how you can help other people,
Hmm.
it oddly helps you. Like it does. It's a thing. Like
Yeah, it is.
whenever I get stuck in my own head about whatever it is, probably something silly and minute, but if I look out and be like, who around me needs help? It totally helps. So
Yep. Different perspective.
yeah.
That got me thinking too, though, when you're talking about the lesions in the brain, that's got to be hard knowing there's some things that you just can't control. So
Hmm.
I like that you're talking about perspective. There's some things you can control, there's some things you can't control, but you just take it one day at a time and you can get through it.
Yeah, because if not, I mean, it definitely gets overwhelming. And then you're like, then you start to just get in your head, like you were saying. And you're like, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if that gets bigger? And what part of the brain did that affect? But I also took it as a learning opportunity as well. So when I would get my MRIs back, I would look at where my lesions were located and tried to figure out what part of the brain that was affecting. And then I could trace it to the symptoms I was having. So when something came up, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Oh my gosh, is this a relapse? I could be like, no, I was out in the sun. I got too hot and my numbness came back. Or I drank a lot of water and we drove to Utah and we had to stop 5 times because I have a small bladder problem, you know? So I think that actually has a positive effect when you educate yourself and look into it because you're not like, oh my gosh, why did my hand just twitch? You know, well, it twitched because you have a dead spot in your brain and it's causing tremors, or you did too much today and your body's like showing you it's on the verge of like pushing the boundaries.
Listening to your body is important.
Yes, very.
Do you have any fun Valentine's Day plans?
Well, no, I am actually still in like quarantine mode.
Okay.
After you have stem cell transplant, you don't have an immune system for like 100 days. So I am at day 86 today. So yep, I'm getting there. Yes, it's a huge like yee. So nope, we're just staying home.
That's nice. Like
Those are good
quiet
plans,
home
yeah.
Valentine's.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how our holidays were too. And I just told my kids, this year is going to be completely different um, than what we just went through because I just, like, I feel so good. I have more energy and I don't know, I'm excited. I'm kind of nervous because every day I wake up and I'm not in pain and I'm not having numbness and I'm not having tremors or migraines. And it kind of scares me because I haven't felt good in years. And I've always had to like force myself to feel good. So waking up and not having anything is like, is this gonna last? Can I be happy about this? And so far, I mean, here I am, like 86 days, and nothing has changed. It wasn't like, oh, just kidding, I'm back. Numbness, pain, everything. It actually is going really well. So, I mean, it just opened my eyes at how everybody else feels every day.
We were so grateful to you for coming in today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your
Aw.
experiences.
Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Yes, of course. And thank you for everyone who came and listened to today's episode. Remember to rate, share, and subscribe the Riverbend Awareness Project.
You can find past and future episodes on the Riverbend Media Group podcast page or wherever you get podcasts.